This is the Freedom Mastery Podcast, the place to learn about rent-to-rent and other property investment strategies. Your host, Kamildomski, has spent 5 years studying advanced property investing strategies and using creative methods to acquire houses. Now, he wants to help you reach your property investing goals. Let's get started.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching. Welcome to the fresh new episode of the Freedom Mastery Podcast. And as always, I want to say welcome, happy day to you. I'm looking forward to come up with this brand new episode. And today I'm recording solo, just myself. I believe that you guys have recently requested some more updates, some more information, and I'm listening to you. And this is certainly what I want to provide to you. Today, wherever you're watching, I'm going to be focusing on service accommodation model because this particularly raised a lot of interest amongst you guys, the listeners, from that Airbnb, short-term let, corporate let, that kind of situation where a lot of people want to get involved in this business, but perhaps you're wondering if this is still a good time to get involved. Isn't that oversaturated, or maybe the market is no longer as good as it was a few years ago? So I want to sort of go through some analysis on and the insights on the market, on the short-term lets, on corporate lets, and where the market is actually heading, not just where it is today, but where we can expect it to go in the next 5 to even 8 years, because that's the data that I want to cover today. So I've got my notes here as well, so I'm going to be looking at my notes because obviously I don't need to know it all by heart. But we certainly, from 2024, we could see a bit of a drop in terms of corporate bookings, long-term bookings from companies or people who were staying for a little bit of a longer time. And certainly I can see that in my portfolio, where the bookings were mainly coming from tourists, from holiday lets, people who were staying there for a week, 2 weeks, but they were not extremely long bookings. It doesn't mean that the occupancy rates dropped a lot, but we could obviously observe a bit of an occupancy drop. Now, digging deeper into the data, it seems that in 2024 and in 2025, we can see a lot of supply coming into the market. So obviously there were more properties offered into the service accommodation market, but the demand was relatively at the same level. So effectively that meant that our properties were seeing a bit of a drop in terms of the occupancies. That, however, was mitigated because we could also rely on especially international people who were coming to the UK, and certainly majority of our stays in our properties were recorded from people staying on the international basis in the UK. On top of that, the ONS reported 90.1 million of confirmed guest nights booked in the UK, which still confirms that the demand is really strong in the British market. And what the ONS is saying is that the number of confirmed nights will be continuously growing, which is a good sign because we see that UK market is definitely not dying. It's definitely attracting more and more people. But it's good to understand what type of people we should be targeting, right? What type of guests we should be expecting moving forward into the coming years. So stick around because I'm going to be revealing that data as well. We could also observe high seasonality, especially in those coastal areas or areas where, we see a lot of holiday lets. People where families or even groups of friends are booking places in order to go there for the weekend, for a week. Obviously in months like June, July, August, maybe even a little bit of September. And these are high seasonality months that attract a lot of tourists, right? So as much as I'm a big fan of those places and I'm booking them, I would say sometimes, a few times a year, I would definitely confirm that we should be always aiming towards mitigating the risk and aiming more towards longer term stays and contractors. So, for example, we've got places like Brighton or Bournemouth. They are on the coastal line, right? So they will be attracting a lot of tourists, but there's also a lot of other things going on. And certainly there must be some work like from contractors' side, traders' side as well. These stays will be attracting long-term bookings as well. And that's how we should be always thinking how we can adjust our portfolio to fit more closer to this longer-term booking. Hey there, I hope you're enjoying the episode right now. If you're anything like me, you're definitely not a spectator. You want to know what's next, what's the next move. And the next logical move for you is to send me a text on my private number. It's 075 22 571 026. That's 075 22 571 026. With your permission, my aim will be to understand your plans and goals, and then to identify actions that will take you from where you are right now to your point of destinations. This will truly help you to gain unfair advantage in your rent-to-rent business. Now, let's get back to the video. A lot of data is actually indicating as well that in 2025, moving on to next year's, there will be higher demand from companies. Companies who are looking to hire places to put in their contractors, put in their workers, even their clients at those properties in order to obviously run that business. That's, again, a very good sign for us. So if we can think what extra feature, what extra amenity we can add to our portfolio in order to fit this particular target client, that would always be a benefit. You see, nowadays it's not just about pricing, because we see a lot of competition going on around, right? It's not just about that anymore. It's also about what we can do that will make us look different. So whether that was going to be an outstanding internet, whether that will be some great books, whether that will be, if we are aiming at families, for example, some games, some, maybe even consoles, high resolution TV, maybe projector, things like that. It depends on who we're aiming. We don't want to be in a market where we're going to be fighting for a client as well. And certainly if we just find a property that looks very average, there is nothing spectacular about that property, we just add a few plants and this and that. It's not just about fresh set of sheets and linen. Think outside of the box. What can we add? What can we do differently? Ideally, so we can showcase that on our photos as well. So when somebody is looking through those photos, they will just be able to pick it out and they will say, oh, I like that feature. Actually, this is a property I would like to stay at. That drives me to another conclusion and another thought that I just had right now, which essentially is all about how we can allow people to see our properties. And of course, the first idea that comes to my mind, and probably to your mind as well, is they will be able to see our property on portals like Airbnb, Booking.com, Vrbo, Google Hotels, and so on and so on. And of course, that's great because when we start, obviously, we cannot exist without those portals. I completely understand that. However, the longer we're driving and running this business, we need to really make and find a way how we're going to be making and finding those people and sort of booking those people, reserving those places for them, so we don't utilize OTAs anymore. The best way to do it is, of course, by having a strong online presence, right? So think about having a good website with clearly displayed properties that we've got. Ideally, if they can just jump online and book that place for themselves, or if not, then hopefully at least they'll be able to see your properties, your portfolio, and there will be some form of call to action. So whether that will be contact us through a form, contact us through ringing us or sending us an email, but it should be clearly displayed on your website how they can contact you and what will the benefit be for them for contacting you. So whether you will be providing them a quote, whether you're going to be providing them with a loyalty discount, whatever, you need to tell and define what's going to be the benefit for them as a result of them visiting your website. Have it clearly displayed. So I think now we've kind of nailed on where we were and where we are right now. So let's talk a little bit more about where we're heading. Now, according to HVS, Ibis World and Silver Door, they are big sources of information within the industry. Now, they all collectively say that there will be an expected growth between 2025 and 2033 across the UK and in Europe as well. it's extremely important to understand because we see a lot of people coming from different continents as well. So we see people from Asia, we see people from South America, and North America as well. So observing what the market is doing, it's really, really good for us, and we can obviously forecast what's going to be happening in the near future. Obviously, observing what's happening in your local area will also help you as well. For example, in my local area, there is a big project going on right now with the rail development and many other projects in a pipeline, which is very, very good for us because we know that there's going to be good demand from contractors and traders. So certainly our website right now is kind of finished, and it's more like aiming closer towards long-term contractors and trade stays. And we certainly want to give them a benefit of contacting us in order to find that ideal place for them, right? On top of that, we have to keep an eye on changing the regulations with local authorities. So it's been going on in many different places across the UK. You know, there are certainly different rules and regulations in Scotland. England itself is like different set of regulations. However, remember that nowadays, with more of an impact on the local councils that will certainly be gaining more authority, they will have the right to actually start introducing their own rules and regulations, and certainly government will have its own say in this field as well. So we have to make sure that we will be monitoring continuously what's going on, so we stay on top of existing rules and regulations. And even somewhere around my desk, this morning I was focusing on creating a bit of a layout for one of our properties as part of our risk assessment, because we obviously want to make sure that our risk assessments are always up to date, which is part of the requirement. So little things like that, you have to stay on top of them and understand what's changing in your local area. If you don't want to drop out, you certainly have to follow those rules and regulations, because there will certainly be part of your competition that will be dropping out as a result of negligence or lack of understanding what is currently changing within their local markets. To wrap up this episode, I want to mention your pricing, because this comes down to a lot of financial stuff, right? We need to understand, you know, at what levels we can rate our nightly pricing and how we can change those things. So I would 100% recommend that you use something like a dynamic pricing software. There are many different ones. I'm not going to be recommending any because that's not the purpose of this video. It's definitely not sponsored by anybody. But I want to tell you this. If you find yourself a one software that you can plug into your platforms and plug into your properties, then certainly it will do you a lot of good. Why? Because you no longer have to stay in the market, as in, like, you know, you don't have to control those prices, not knowing if your pricing is currently right or wrong. There are many things to take into account and consideration, like, you know, local events, you know, seasonality, current demand, what's your competition doing. There's a lot of things going on around. Now, there are algorithms and softwares that you can plug into, and that will obviously dictate how your portfolio should be priced. Of course, it's still your role to monitor this, and you can obviously regulate it up and down, but it will certainly help you to be more competitive on the market, essentially meaning that you are a competition and you're not following competition. I hope you understand exactly what I mean by that, because with the dynamic pricing software, you're going to be the leader in the market when it comes to the realistic pricing, rather than you doing this exercise maybe once a week and then following what others are doing in the area and then following their prices. Just think about yourself as the local leader in this field, and then do things that you have to do in order to not just become a leader, but to sustain this tag for your business. I hope this all makes sense. And, you know, service accommodation is definitely a wonderful model, and I would definitely say there is a huge scope for this market in the UK and also in Europe. Maybe if you're interested around Europe to do this kind of business model, absolutely go ahead and do it, because the books, the forecasts, the information, it all looks very positive for the upcoming years. So we definitely want to be tapping into this market. And to wrap this up, at that point, we were recently contacted by a big European company who wanted to absorb our portfolio into their big portfolio. And obviously, right now we're not looking to sell our business and our company. However, it just shows that the big players, the European competition, is certainly looking to step into the UK market as well, because there will be some positive things going on. So with this positive thought, with this positive attitude, I want to wrap up and say I'm looking forward to see you in the market, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the market will be very, very good and pleasant for you and the growth of your business. Until next time, peace and love.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Freedom Mastery Podcast. Please like, follow, and share the show. While you are at it, connect with us on Facebook and TikTok at kamil.domski or on Instagram at kamil_domski. Until next time.